Thank you. Hi, welcome. We started this series this year, and we're still figuring it out. So this is going to be very casual in nature, sort of a conversation between two of us. But I also have to, in sort of setting the table, this is an artist and a person I adore. To own that. We've known each other now for 7 years or so, maybe? I don't know. And we've worked together on several projects, and her talent always inspires me, and she's always just the best to work with. But what I want to start, my first question with you, I want you to share with everybody, because we have some amazing business and community leaders in this room, and I want you to share with everybody your secret dark past before you were in the entertainment industry.
Sure. Before I decided to go into acting in Broadway and the career I'm in now, I was in finance on Wall Street, and I did not go to school for theater. So when I graduated school, I immediately went into an investor relations job in New York, and I worked at a firm, sort of a third-party firm to very huge companies going public on the U.S. market for about 3.5, almost 4 years. And in that time, learned a lot about business, learned a lot about marketing, learned a lot about strategic marketing, and I also learned that it was not what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. I learned it wasn't my passion. I learned that as women, at least for myself, I could speak for myself in saying, I put a lot aside to try and make other people happy in trying to take a job that would make my parents really proud at the time. And it really wore on me as far as stress and anxiety is concerned. And I think you start to realize that those things are true when you physicalize them. I used to start to get panic attacks and things like that, and then all of a sudden I knew I needed to leave. Just my luck, the market crashed in '08. Not to anybody else's luck who was a homeowner at the time or trying to get a loan, but anyway. But I got lucky in being able to get laid off from that job and pursue a life in the arts. And I babysat everybody's kid, and I went to every audition that I could, and I would show up at 6 a.m. and wait there all day and persevere and just understand the meaning of true grit and understand that, as women, we always have to work a little bit harder and to get to the destination that we would like to get to. It's always just a little harder for us. So my life now as a performer, I went very quickly from my Broadway debut when I was 30.
In what show?
In the Berges of Madison County, which, when you're 30 years old making your Broadway debut, you are geriatric. So kids are making their debuts at 22 now, right? And so it was like, oh, she's 30. So I sort of really, really focused for a very long time for the past, I'm 40 right now. So I focused 10 years of my life specifically only on career building. And I went very fast in 4 years from Berges of Madison County to Finding Neverland to Fiddler on the Roof, and then I led Wicked on tour, and then I led Wicked on Broadway. And then Mike and I met very soon after that on a pre-Broadway run of a new show. And then COVID happened. But I've had a very incredible past couple of years of getting to solo debut at Carnegie Hall twice. My third time will be this December. But understanding in all of that I wouldn't be where I am right now in this career had I not had a life in business first. So I have a lot of respect for people who sort of wear a couple of different hats when it comes to creativity. And I've always said to everybody I've ever met that, to be an artist is to also understand that you are every C-level executive of your entire life. Even though you might not have a company that you are running, you really are the CEO, the CFO, the COO, human resources, PR, marketing. It's just up to you. So this is my third year back at the Muny in my dream role in a show that happens to just be very centered around a woman, and a very normal one at that, who I think a lot of people can relate to. And that's, also speaks to the fact that this is a Muny debut of a show that, to Mike's credit of wanting to bring it in and show people what a real life of a woman going through something and trying to find herself is like. So I think the past couple days, we've only been open for a couple of days, obviously, and the feedback has been overwhelming.
Incredible.
As far as people who see themselves or have been there before or have said, I'm in the midst of struggling and I was, this has really inspired me to want to make a change, or so it's been amazing. And I'm also just a very big women's rights activist. So for me, that's also a part of getting to do something like this, is that I am on several boards and work with several women's rights organizations. So a lot of what I do is centered around how much I love women and lifting them up.
I want to go back to something you said in the middle of that about you're your own HR, PR, CO. So we worked together on this musical out of town, and we tried out in Atlanta. And when I'm using that left brain producing, sort of the Broadway producing, it's a very different structure, it's a very different culture thing. And so as compared to the Muny, where I'm intimately involved in casting and talking and Bax and I and Telsey sort of figuring out and knowing it, that there's a whole casting agency and there's 10 million voices and stuff. So I was aware of her as a talent and sort of watching her in the rehearsal room, and I thought, wow, she's really good, and just sort of one of them. And then we did the first preview. It was sold out. And I go in the lobby, because it's in this art center in Atlanta, and there's like 200 people vibrating. Now, the show had a lot of young people, sort of young, and usually it's that crowd. And I was like, wow, they're like, oh no, they're all here for Jessica. And I was like, what? But now I want to move to you and shaping your own career. You have developed such a beautiful relationship through social media, through your sort of, what I'm going to call vision of building up a connection with your audience and what I would argue is a fan base. Talk about that decision, how you do it, how you manage that.
I mean, it's hard, right? It's like when I grew up, we didn't have social media. I mean, I think I'm the last generation who didn't have social media, where Facebook had just come out when I was in college, and you had to have an EDU to even have a Facebook. So there was no self-promotion or anything like that. If I wanted to go to a stage door on Broadway, my fingers were crossed with a Kodak camera that somebody would come out and sign my playbill and I would get a photo, right? But there was never this expectation. And these days it's so easy with these lovely little devices. As helpful as they also are this, they're this tool that makes people feel very close to you, which in running a business is wonderful on one hand. And then on the other hand, when you're the face of that business and you are, stage dooring in my case, or if you are, at your establishment and you're the one selling whatever it is that you're selling and people know that it's you, there's a fine line, I think, between giving away too much about your life and also feeling like you can put things out there to help people get to know who you are. So I've always wanted to show people that show business is not rainbows and butterflies. I think too often, again, in a room with, business women, that we oftentimes are made to feel like we need to show how great it is. And there's, I'm doing really well and I don't want anybody to know that I'm not having a great day, and I'm not going to show that because it's going to make me look weak. And I am the opposite of that. I am a very big, I'm not having a great day today, and I'm a mental health advocate, and I need to have therapy. Today's a therapy day. Today's a self-care day. And I have found that people respond very much to that because there is a kinship in allowing people to feel connected to you because you're authentic. And I think a lot of theater kids want to see that. And a lot of theater kids are used to coming in and meeting somebody who they think has just never had a bad day in their lives, and they just walk around like a princess. And I'm Ursula. I don't do, I'm not the princess gal. I'm sort of the one who just goes through excuse my French, I've been through some shit. So I feel very strongly in. I think my fan base on social media has grown so much because I like to show people behind the scenes of what it's really like. And I think it also gives people who want to get there a bit of self-preservation and knowing that they can, and it doesn't always have to be a certain road. Wherever it is that you are success-wise the road is not going to be the same for me as it is for you or the next person.
I find that so courageous because I'm 20 years older than you. So, you're the Facebook, so I'm here, right?
Yeah.
And that level of connection, communication, I can't, God love the marketing department, really, I'm like, Mike, we need to do this. No, somebody else. I can't do that because I feel exposed. I
think a lot of people do. It's a scary thing. A lot of actors do. A lot of actors don't like to use their social media in that way. And the hard part about it is that for somebody like me, who is here doing such a huge thing in St. Louis, my goal is to get that out to the world and get that out to larger markets to know that something really huge and special is going on here. And so I have a reach to do that, or I've created a platform that will allow that to happen. And then it reaches all of these other people who then want to share it as well. But a lot of people don't want to do that because of the comments that you might get or the opinions that you might get, because everybody has something to say and their opinion is always right. And, you have to deal with about 800 of those a day. So it takes a certain amount of strength, I think, or, thick skin to kind of take all of that and let it roll off your back. Otherwise, you're just at the mercy of what random strangers think. And I say that because I have been at the mercy and I have gone crazy over it. Oh my God, that one person really hated my performance. I'm never going to work again. Social media is the tool right now that is moving forward businesses, in my opinion. It's what is being used to sell. It's what's being used to either promote, market. We're in a place right now where not everybody can go to New York and see a Broadway show. So what the Muny has done that I think Broadway is jealous of, if I may, is the Muny has been able to take clips from their shows and put them together in such a way, to your credit, Colby, over there in the picture, and put them together in such a way, in such a fast way, that you get a feel for what the show is here at such a high level that people who are coming out here, people are flying out from New York to see the show here. So the difference is that kids who have been used to going on YouTube and looking up a bootleg of me singing Wicked can come to the Muny and see a fully realized Broadway production at the same level and scale as a Broadway production is, and feel like they haven't been left out. And then that little spider web of them telling their friends who have told their friends who have told, it just becomes a place that everybody wants to work. And that's just word of mouth over time. I have no patience, let's be real. I was born without it. So in my last 10 years of my life, have just only been career focused, which has also been hard because I don't know if any of you have ever felt this way before, but in being so career focused, then you get the people who are like, well, I guess you're never going to have a family because you're so career focused. And so it's a really delicate balance to be a career woman, I guess, or who wants to have a business and also do everything. But I still think you can. Yeah. That's just.
Do you have a cat?
I have a dog. But I still I am a crazy cat lady.
Okay, you opened the door, so I'm going to walk through it. So, Jessica, what happened to you in St. Louis last summer?
Oh. Well, we're all friends now, so I'll tell you. So I was here doing Chefs, And, you know, when you're doing a show here, it's like a 2-3 week process, right? It's fast and furious. It's a skill set to do a show here in itself. But I've learned the show. Chess is a very like heavily sung show. There's not much book or script to it. So I was done with learning it. I got bored. And so I went on Hinge. And I was not looking for a relationship. I was just looking for a good old time. I had like a week left, and I saw this guy's photo, and naturally I asked one of the wonderful sassy gays next to me, "Is he cute?" And they said yes. So I said I would go out with him for dinner, and he and I have been together ever since. Oh, yeah. So. And he's from St. Louis. He's born and raised. He's not in the business. Thank you. And it's like one of the best things that's ever happened to me. And he's the most supportive. And also, you know, it's been wonderful to find somebody who has, who can understand just how important my career is to me without having to sacrifice anything. And otherwise, you're lifting each other up to both, you know, feel a really wonderful balance of what it's like to have somebody. Look at us living the same life.
Corner over here.
Yeah, it's a really nice, unexpectedly wonderful thing.
You may have picked up, along with this, you have an incredible work ethic.
Oh, yeah.
That's my experience of you. And as an artist, you plumb the depths of your characters. You offer not only your incredible talent, but surprise and a real active sense every night on stage as a leader, as a company leader. So one of the things in any show, but your principles, your leading, there's an unspoken but very needed ethic of you set the bar for all your colleagues. You're in the room, you're leading the show, and everybody goes to that level. You can have serious problems if you have someone who's leading a show and they're not leading a show. It's just that indefatigable thing. When Jessica is the leader of a show or has a road, I'm in awe. There's a generosity of spirit that spreads throughout the company that comes directly from here. Where did you learn that?
Kelly O'Hara and Danny Burstein, who are two incredible Tony Award-winning Broadway actors. Kelly was the leading lady of the Bridges of Madison County when I made my Broadway debut, and I was a swing on the show, which meant that I was not in the actual show. I was off stage, and if somebody got sick, I would go on. I'm bad at that job. I should never be hired to do that again because I don't have the ability to memorize like 8 roles at a time. I'm just good with one. So my question to her, you know, I would ask her a lot, you know, how did you get here, or what did it take to lead a company? She had just had her second baby at the time, and she was still breastfeeding in between shows, and she had a bunch of help still, so it was much more doable for her, but still very hard and exhausting. I can't imagine. I'm exhausted doing a show, and I have a dog, and so I can't imagine a working mother having to also go on stage. I've had several people who I've worked with who had a newborn or up to a 6-month-old, and they were doing 2 shows a day. And I think that is Avengers style work ethic. And so I kind of learned by watching and understanding that the fish stinks at the head is basically how I see it. And sort of it also goes with producers who run shows as well. I mean, in order for us to lead a company very well, we also have to have really wonderful dialogue from the powers that be. And before I left on tour for Wicked, I had just worked with Danny Burstein, who was our Tevye and Fiddler on the roof on Broadway. And I had asked him if we could have a phone call about what it would take to lead a company. And he just said to me that, you know, always leave your door open. And, you know, just remember that if you come in with a bad day, everybody's going to have a bad day. And if you come in with, you know, a happy attitude, everybody else is going to just have a happy attitude. And it really is true. And on these shorter contracts, especially, it could be super stressful. And I mean, on this one, I would go home every night and make my boyfriend read the entire script with me. He knows every single line in the show. He has come every night, and if I have missed a line, he's like, "You missed a line tonight." So, I mean, so he really has been the only one that's gotten any of my attitude at all. The cast and I mean, and people, some of the magic, especially of working here, is the people that you're put in a room with, and this is a smaller cast, which is really nice as well. They know how to pick them here when you're coming in and working, and everybody really does have the same type of work ethic, I would say, especially on this show. And I also just think there's something about being a leading lady that is different about being a leading man. It's always been that way. So, and I have always been used to just having to work a little harder, and I don't mind doing it. But it also does pay off because the show is really, really good, and I know that it's very, very good. I can feel that every single night from an audience of thousands of people who are silent. I have never heard a silent audience at the Muny before, and it's truly like being in a living room right now because the show itself is so beautifully small and precious about this woman and her journey of trying to find herself, that just the audience just leans in the whole time, and that's something special, I think, and you don't get to see that a lot.
But it's also, she's being modest. Yes, that's true. It's a powerful experience, and if you've been a part of the Muny journey here over the last decade or so, a transformational moment for us was the new stage that went into 2019, and COVID hit. But now this season, I think you're seeing the fullness of what we can do with this stage in terms of the artistry, and the most astonishing thing is when 10,000 people there, we can create true intimacy. Just remember this when you see a scene in the second act where it's just her and her leading man in an astonishingly beautiful duet. And just take a moment and feel what's going on around you.
You're seeing it tonight? Is that what's happening?
Yeah. So when we announced we were doing Waitress, we were flooded on social media with various forms of love, going to threats of, "We will burn the place down if you don't cast Jessica Vosk." Am I right? It was fierce.
Announcement day, Jessica Vosk for nothing.
Yeah. There's a campaign here. There's been a campaign.
We weren't alone in seeing the possibility of you in this part. So talk to us. You and I've had some conversations about it, and you've talked about how meaningful this character has been to you. Let's roll that out.
Yeah, I mean, I guess have you all seen Wicked before, right? So, I mean, I played the Green Witch for a long time. And something amazing that happens is that there's a badassery that comes along with it, where you develop a very thick skin. It's a tough role. It's a tough company. And going from that on tour for 12 months, 13 months, and then to Broadway for a year for its 15th anniversary was a really big deal for me. But what that role does is it puts you in a place where people they just say, "Gosh, she's such a great singer." And man, she gets up there and sings Defying Gravity, and it's amazing. But sometimes they forget that it's also a really beautiful, depthy acting role. And so when the possibility came to do the role of Jenna in Waitress, for me, I'm a huge Sarah Bareilles fan. If I could live with her for the rest of my life, I would. I just think that she's incredible. And of course, the score won the Tony Award. It's music and lyrics, and it's deservedly so. It's a beautiful score. And of course, I wanted to sing it because I love it so much. But I really wanted to tell the story of this woman who has been through a lot as a victim of circumstance in her life. We've taken this particular piece and set it in Texas. That's where this diner is. That's where she lives. and she happens to just be in a very, very, abusive marriage and happens to want to figure a way out, but doesn't know how to do that and doesn't have the actual tools to do that. And she has beautiful escape from baking. And she bakes incredible pies where everybody comes to her place of work just for her gorgeous and delicious pie. And that's where her love comes from. And just through all of these twists and turns, and I call her a shapeshifter because not that she is any different, but when people come around her best friends, she's allowed to have fun. When she has her husband around, she's extremely small because she is scared. And when other people are around, she can be more opinionated. And the show is very cleverly and beautifully written with every character because it's a true ensemble piece. There's comedic relief, there's really depthy things that'll make you feel uncomfortable, which is one of my favorite things to do, is to just make you think a little bit, because that's the one thing that might be able to change somebody's mind at the end of the day. And Jenna's story is about having repeated a cycle that her mother was in with her father. And she lost her mother. And so her love for what she does comes from her mom. I just lost my dad, and my dad taught me to sing. So there's a really fun parallel. And this show for me is a lot more, I wanted people to see what it is that I can do when it comes to bringing something to a role that I haven't gotten to do necessarily by being painted green. Because, there's not many of us that are green walking around the world, but there are a lot of Jennas walking around the world who are saying, I'm really amazing at this one thing, but I haven't been given the chance to do it yet because I don't know how. And then somehow through all of these, things from circumstance, she's able to figure out how to get her power back. And I just think that's an incredible and beautiful story. And I think it's one here that people are coming and not knowing the show. That's one of the best parts. Is like, I don't know what this show's about. Sarah Bareilles wrote it. She's so good. I love her. And then they leave going like, oh shit. And for me, it's kind of in these scenes, there's an older gentleman in the show who is very much the grandfatherly figure of the show. And the past 2 nights in the scene that I have with him at the end of the show, I said, I think it was 2 nights ago, I said, Dad, give me a sign that you're here. And a shooting star happened. And then last night, I said, during the scene, in my head, of course, Dad, I hope that you're really enjoying this. And during my solo, all this lightning just started happening.
Yeah.
And it's been a very cool experience for someone like me who is I'm a big believer in signs and kind of understanding that you're on the right path, and knowing that I've been able to do something with this particular show that feels really special to me, that I'm really, really proud of.
Yeah. If you're familiar with the show, if you happen to see it on Broadway or tour, you'll see we've done a completely different thing with it. One of the best comments I've had, people have really been connecting with it, and this guy came up to me and said, I love the show so much, I saw it on Broadway twice, I saw it in London, this is the best version I've ever seen. But he said, but you had a new script, right? I was like, no, this is the same script. He went, no, I said, this is exactly the same show. He was like, didn't even know how to contemplate that. Before we go off, does anybody have any questions? Yes.
Formal training. Any formal training?
Yeah, when I was a kid, I did every type of training you could think of. I was a ballerina bunhead, did all the dancing. I was classically trained vocally, and I still train vocally, but I trained through high school classically, and then I went and started training with an incredible vocal coach in New York through my teens. When I was in college for finance, I stopped everything, but I did choir because I'm a big believer in reading music. So I was the one weird person in investor relations that was in choir when all the kids were like, who's that? So it was, but yeah, and whenever I get the chance to teach a class or to talk to kids about training, my one thing that I always say is that even though I didn't go to college for this, I still go to class all the time just because I'm also a really, really big believer in like the success I have right now can go away tomorrow. And I know what it was like to sit at a desk and work in a career that I was great at, but I didn't love. And so the fact that I get to do this, a lot of it doesn't become about me. I guess, the things that we make and the things that we put out into the world for whatever it is that we are doing as, businesswoman of X business, it doesn't necessarily become about us anymore. For me, it's about the people coming to see the show and what they take from it, or how I've been able to change your life or your brain or your heart in 2 hours and make you escape a little bit. That's really what makes it worth it for me. And I know that tomorrow it could be like, well, that's all over. So I always feel really, really lucky that I get to do this.
I've always wondered about this, sitting in the audience. I have season tickets here on whatever show. But how do you ever have you have to memorize so many different parts that you're in. Does any other part sometimes come in your head and you say the wrong words?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I remember when I did Wicked, I was on Broadway, and there's a song called No Good Deed, and you're just on stage by yourself, and it's a total solo, and it's supposed to be really the penultimate moment in the show before the show ends, when you're like making a potion. And I remember the director had come to watch it, and I started this spell, which is like Elikanamenamenatuma, and the first couple words are like, let his flesh not be torn, let his heart feel no shame, and I was like, and I just, the first like 8 bars were just like, and I was like, this director's gonna kill me for not remembering the words, and she had no idea. She was like, that was so good. So I mean, truly, we go up all the time. I think sometimes that's the difference of film actors never wanting to do theater, because film actors are used to doing 8 takes, right? And it's like, oh, let me take that again. I missed that one word. In theater, we do not have that luxury. So if somebody messes up a word, the other night that happened with one of our actors, and he couldn't quite find what he was trying to say. So I was like, I'm gonna help him out somehow. I'm like, do you mean the blah, blah, blah? And so we all like, you think on your feet. It gives you this agility, this brain agility in live theater sometimes, where you have to figure it out in order to make the show go on. And it's kind of fun for us. I don't know. I love it. I also really hate it, because then it makes me start thinking.
We would never know.
That's right. Yeah.
I just wonder, like,
all the time.
How do you do it? Like, how
it's
do you
hard.
possibly remember all? I've asked this of little kids that are in the Muny too. How do they? And they say, well, sometimes you make a mistake.
Oh yeah.
But I'm just wowed by it. And I think, because I've seen all these shows on Broadway, that the Muny is at least as good, if not 10 times better, in most of the shows that I've seen. And I've seen some of my favorites multiple times on Broadway with different actors and actresses. And I say, why would anybody go all the way to New York to see a show?
Look, it's why you get every major Broadway actor that wants to come out here. I mean, our show right now has one of the original cast members who won the Tony for Dreamgirls. He originated
James Underoath.
He originated James in Dreamgirls and won the Tony for it, and he's here doing Waitress. I mean, everybody wants to come out here and do it because the level of professionalism and the level of actual the show itself, the teams that they bring in, the creativity, the set design. I mean, our set is outdoors. Like it's every other theater, I should say, that's done Waitress. Every single one. Outdoors or not. It's always been an indoor diner. But the incredible idea that came out of, we're at the Muny, and we're outdoors is, why isn't the diner outside? And it's sort of, like we have the room, there's real cars on stage. Because of course there are, because it's the Muny. But like, it has made everybody, I mean, I've had people fly out from New York already, and several others are coming out just to see it because of word of mouth. And because of what you just said, what's happening out here doesn't necessarily happen on Broadway right now. And I love that. Any other questions? I'm so sorry.
That's,
So you had mentioned, as I growing in my own career, I felt like very exposed to like criticism as opposed to critique, and it hurts me so much, and that's something that I have to learn to deal with.
Yeah.
And I feel it coming fast and furious. It's
Yes.
like as soon as I started to really like hit the gas, it started coming at me just quick. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I don't have any like
Tools?
defense against that.
Sure.
I just like am floored every time. How did you do that?
Trial and error for me. I mean, I used to take things really personally. And there's times that I still do. And then I don't know, I just had to realize like it's not worth my time. I always think to myself like, if people have something to say and criticize about me, my thing, I think it's, I forget, it's an Eleanor Roosevelt quote about, if you're not in the ring doing it, then I don't care about your opinion. If you're not up there with me, doing a song with me, if you're not baking the way I can bake, if you're not doing the thing that I'm doing right next to me, then you're not allowed to have an opinion about it. I mean, of course, go ahead, have it. But if you're not in this ring fighting with me for the thing that I love to do, your opinion doesn't matter to me because you're not doing it.
I mean, certainly I have felt exposed here from walking the door, right? And it's a strange thing to get your head around because it's deeply personal, but it's abstract, it's all things at once. And one of the things I get my head around is there's 10,000 people at the meeting tonight, right? 1,000 people are gonna love it irrationally because it's the Muny, whatever. There's 1,000 people who are just gonna hate it irrationally for reasons that have nothing to do with what we're doing. And I think about the 8 in the middle, and I work for them. And I try to move forward in that, and they're gonna like it, love it, blah, 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 but there's a relationship there. And those people who are on the edges, I don't know what's going on in their lives. There's, particularly with the stuff online, there's a lot of, I just say this, there's people who are mentally ill, and they can go online and say whatever. Or, so you just so it's sort of this, you have to develop this tensile sort of like move forward, and we talk about it all the time as a team, and when I hear the applause and people talk, I go, okay, we're there. And, it's sort of a long-term thing, and I can tell you, we've got to wrap it up.
Sorry.
No.
What I say is that you spoke a lot about how Jenna's story is so powerful and how so many people can relate to Jenna, and I can tell you, being in this room, I saw so many heads nodding for the women who can relate to you.
Yeah, well, I
so
mean,
you have a powerful story too. Thank you for sharing it with us. We're thrilled.
Thank you. Oh, and I will end with this. On that note, I'm so sorry. I know we have to go. But I will say this. To that point, there's been this great quote going around because we're in the midst of the Olympics right now. It's like, Simone Biles is up there and she's doing her hoobity-doo, most amazing thing ever. And it's like that one person on their couch that's like, it was slightly crooked. Right. You know what I mean? Like, that's what it's like to have somebody watch you who's just sitting on their couch who has no idea what it takes. And you just have to keep doing the thing that it takes because without you doing it, there's less magic in the world. And that's what And now I will sing for you on stage.
Thank you, Jessica.
Thank you.
Mike. And also, we have a signing program.
Okay.
Oh, I have to.
I was gonna say out loud, yes, there are signed playbills for each of you.